Hi there, and welcome to FSD Academy episode number 2. This episode will focus on autopilot. As you've seen in episode number 1, which I'm going to link here, I've been talking about and teaching you about the levels of autonomy, which is level 0 to level 5 of self-driving. So you can compare and contrast what you see today and hear today to those, and I will actually also refer back to those levels in this episode. So since I'm going to be talking about autopilot, I thought that it was actually better if I got into a car that has autopilot, and I just put the car into drive and I'm driving it manually to get onto a freeway, since as I'm going to describe it to you later, Tesla's autopilot is meant to be a driver assist system for highways, and it's not meant to work on surface streets like the one that I'm on right now and the one that you've seen Full Self-Driving Drive in the first episode of FSD Academy. So today's topic, autopilot. So autopilot is a loaded word, and a lot of people think that autopilot means that the car is driving itself, but don't believe that. Autopilot is actually similar to airplanes where autopilot can take over from pilots from time to time, but it's not a self-driving system. It's not a self-flying system in the case of airplanes either. So pilots still need to be there, and you as a driver in a Tesla car with autopilot will always need to be in charge and in control and ready to take over at any moment in time while your car is in motion. So please keep that in mind. That's for your safety, and that's also to protect Tesla's reputation as a company, as a software company, not just a car company, developing solutions for autonomous driving in the future. So now we're on the freeway, so I'm actually going to turn on autopilot, and I've just turned it on. What you can notice on the screen is that we see that there's a maximum speed. I'm going to talk about that. Sorry, I just pulled the stock once, and that's an important mistake that I just did there. So I just turned on what is called the cruise control. And if I go into the menu here, you'll see that it's a traffic aware cruise control, because I don't have auto steer enabled right now in this system. So this is basically just a cruise control, a traffic aware cruise control system that I'm using now, and auto steer is not enabled. So the first mistake that I want you to avoid is to think that the car, when you're in this mode, will steer for you. It will not. So auto steer has to be enabled in your autopilot settings, in your car settings, which I'm going to show to you. But let's first discuss what this does. This setting, actually, when you have traffic aware cruise control enabled, you set the maximum speed for your car, and you can adjust the speed with the right scroll bar on your Model 3 or Model Y vehicles, up or down. You see that I just adjusted it to 70 miles, and I'm going to talk about this warning that we just heard as well. So you can adjust your maximum speed, and the car will make sure that you don't get too close to the car you're following, but it will accelerate as much as possible within the speed limit range that you've set. So you can set it to a lower speed under the speed limit if you want to. I mean, right now you guys see that I'm in traffic, so the car naturally will not try to accelerate that much, but I could just set it to 60 in a 65 zone. And when you turn it on, this setting on your screen that I'm showing to you right now says speed limit or current speed. So you can set it so when you turn it on, it will either adjust to the speed limit or it will try to keep your current speed. So if I modify this, then it will just try to keep my current speed whenever I turn the traffic aware cruise control on. Then there's offsets here, and I will need to change a lane here, otherwise actually we will need to take an exit. I will need to come to a full stop to enable the auto steer beta. So I'm I'm not going to take this exit. This leads to another freeway, but the next exit I'm going to take, and I just activate it by pulling down the stalk once and deactivate it by pulling up on the stalk, or I can just hit the brake. That also deactivates traffic aware cruise control, just the same way as you'll see with Autopilot as well. So Autopilot is kind of a mix of these two features, and you hear these warnings. I'm going to talk about these warnings. These are because I'm obviously not fully focused on driving right now. I'm trying to record this video and I'm leaving the lane. So there's a lane assist feature built into Tesla's Autopilot. So as I go down on the menu, there's something here called offset. And the offset is basically you can set a speed when you turn it on to be at a higher or lower limit than the speed limit when you have the speed limit function on. So basically, let's say the speed limit is 50 and you want, because I mean I'm driving in California and most drivers drive a little over speed limit, if not a lot over speed limit most of the times. So you want the car to feel more natural on the road, and you say, I want the car to go 10% higher or faster than the speed limit is on every road. And as you see, I'm changing lanes manually here with the turn signal, but the car adopts to the new car that we're following. You see that it's the darker shade black shows me as the driver which car it's taking as a follow car, basically. So now if I change lanes to the right again, you see that that car actually changed to gray, and the car that I'm following now turned to a darker shade of gray, basically. We also have a speed limit warning here, which it can just go on the display, so it basically will show me if I'm going faster than the speed limit, or it can also chime if I'm going faster than the speed limit. And now I'm not braking, so I'm not using any pedals now. The car's slowing down because traffic is slowing down ahead of me. We can also set a relative and absolute speed limits to the car so that I cannot go faster at any circumstance than the speed limit is, or an absolute value. And this can be interesting if you're a fresh driver, let's say, and you can't really keep track of the speeds, and you don't want to exceed, let's say, 80 miles an hour under any circumstances. Here, the next one on the menu that we see is what's called a forward collision warning. That gets activated when I get too close to a car, and I'm again not braking. Although we left the freeway, the traffic aware cruise control does not turn off. It's just very important that you are aware what the traffic aware cruise control does. It actually, and now I'm going to turn off the system because I want to come to a stop to activate Autosteer to be able to show you the other feature, the more advanced feature of Autopilot to you. So traffic aware cruise control stays on city streets as well. So it's important for you to distinguish what the car can do in this function, or with this feature turned on, and what it cannot. So it will keep the distance to the car ahead of you. I would advise turning it off on city streets if you are using only traffic aware cruise control. It can be quite confusing from time to time when you would not want to accelerate, but because the car ahead of you accelerates, the car will automatically accelerate. So I would advise turning it off by pulling up on the stalk, and I just put the car into reverse because we're already turned it off, pulling up on the stalk, or just hitting the brakes once you exit the freeway. So what we have here in the settings, as I was talking about a forward collision warning, when you go too close to a car, the car will give you a warning sign, like the alarm sign that you heard when I was leaving the lane before. So you can turn it off. I would not advise doing that. Or you can set it to a late warning, a medium warning, or an early warning. As normally, I would suggest using a medium setting. I prefer personally to use the late warning, because on the medium setting it gives me a little too many warnings and I get annoyed by it. But try using the medium setting first and then move either way. If you feel that it's giving you a too late warning and you need more, then go towards early, or move back towards late if you're like me and you actually are a quite aware driver and you only need the late warnings when you really need to brake. Now, what's important is that Autopilot actually does have an emergency braking and automatic emergency braking. Here you see that this is turned on for me and I have to put the car in park to disable this. I would strongly advise against turning this off. This will save you from hitting another car in front of you when they suddenly brake. You're maybe looking at somewhere else. You're not focused on the car ahead of you. So keep that on. It has actually saved me a couple of times already from hitting cars. It will happen that it will brake sometimes when there's no need to brake. That might be confusing for cars behind you, but I would still strongly suggest keeping it on for all time. Now the lane departure avoidance has 3 settings as well. You can turn it off. Again, not advised. I would keep that on because, again, we are humans. We make mistakes sometimes. As you've seen me driving, I was like steering a little bit off the lane or outside of the lane. I would at least keep it on the warning sign at all times. But what I like to use is the assist, because then when you're leaving the lane, the car will actually nudge you back into your lane. Again, important distinction, this is not auto steer, so don't rely on this as an auto steer function, please. This will just nudge you back into the lane if you're leaving the lane, but it will not steer the car for you. So don't rely on this and don't think that this will keep you inside the lane for a longer time. I was talking about emergency lane departure avoidance already, emergency braking, obstacle aware acceleration. Again, a super advanced feature of Tesla's is that when something is ahead of you and you hit the accelerator, the car will avoid hitting that obstacle or that object, that car, that trash can. So again, keep that on. I would strongly suggest that you keep that on. Again, it can save you from hitting something if you're, let's say, mixing up the pedals. And you would think that never happens. Tesla actually published that there's a couple of these incidents at least every single day where people mix up the pedals and they hit the accelerator instead of the brake in a situation, and the car will be more intelligent than the person in this moment and save you from an accident. So keep that setting on. Traffic aware cruise control chime. Again, these chimes will help you when the car is in the traffic aware cruise control. I would discourage you from turning that off at all times. Keep that setting on. If the chime is too much for you, you might come back, put the car in park and turn it off. Again, advised to go against that. And green traffic light chime, again, a super advanced feature. If you're not paying attention at a green light or at a traffic light and you're the first car in line, the car will chime. You'll hear a ping sound when the light turns from red to green. Again, don't necessarily always rely on this setting or this chime. Always check the traffic light before you hit the accelerator. I've had instances where there's a turning light that turned green and I got the chime. So please don't rely on it. Use it as an extra added value feature. Always check the traffic light before you would start the car. So now let's put the car in park and let's activate auto steer. And you see, once I hit auto steer, I get a disclaimer screen which says that auto steer is a driver assistant feature and does not make your car autonomous. You can read the full disclosure here of the disclaimer, but basically you give the right to Tesla, if you enable Autosteer, to use this camera right here. If your Tesla is made, I believe, after 2017, 2018, you will have a cabin, an inside cabin camera. That camera will be used to track your eyes and to check whether you're paying attention all the time to your surroundings and to the road ahead of you. So if you have any questions, you can always refer to the owner's manual. I'm just gonna hit yes here and enable auto steer, so we can hit back, go back to the freeway. I'm gonna manually drive, go back to the freeway now, make a U-turn, and show you how auto steer works. The most important distinction once you enable auto steer, and I'll show that to you on your settings screen just right now, once I complete this turn and turn the system on, is that an autopilot activation setting appeared here, and what it says is single pull or double pull. So I have it on single pull. So now once you enable auto steer, it might be a little confusing to you, but once you enable it and you pull the lever once, actually it's going to put it into auto steer and not into traffic aware cruise control. So now we're in auto steer. I just pulled it once. So now my setting actually disappeared, and immediately I see a warning, please pay attention to the road, because I was looking at you or looking at the screen for a longer period of time. What happens now is very interesting and is a little more advanced than what we've seen with traffic aware cruise control. So auto steer is everything that's in traffic aware cruise control and a little bit more, and this is usually what people refer to when they say autopilot. So autopilot is included by default in every Tesla vehicle. This is what I would really start calling a level 2 system, if I have to refer back to our first episode where we defined what the levels of autonomy are in self-driving cars. So the car is basically accelerating on its own. You saw that there was space, it started to accelerate. When there was less space, when there was a car that cut us off, it braked and used the brakes and slowed the car down, so we're not hitting that car ahead of us. And you also notice that I'm not touching the steering wheel here, so the car is steering. It's basically keeping lanes for me. It's not going to be taking exits. It's not what is called navigating on autopilot for me. This is the basic autopilot. So what I would recommend you do, and we were like suddenly braking here, the car behind us had a little problem, but we had zero problems because the car not only sees the car ahead of us, but it can detect cars ahead of the car ahead of us and more, as you can see through its camera. It's very important distinction to other self-driving technologies that Tesla relies on the 8 cameras in the car. There's no other technology that it uses. It's a vision only based self-driving system. So this is more or less what I wanted to tell you about traffic aware cruise control and auto steer, which basically add up to create the feature what Tesla calls autopilot. I believe I told you about all the settings here. I recommended what settings to start on, to use, and we will limit this episode on autopilot here. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the comment section. I'll read all the comments. I respond to all the comments as well. This is FSD Academy. My name is Zoltan Peristegi, and please subscribe if you like the content and hit the like button as well. Thank you for being with me. This was episode 2 of FSD Academy.